Tell Kathy that we're now booking the camp for next summer.
I will motion to open the meeting.
Open. 6:07. I handed you all a copy of the agenda and a copy of the minutes from last meeting 2 weeks ago. We're going to work on getting a copy of the minutes from the previous meeting, but they were put into a different format that we can't open. So we'll get those at another time, for the next meeting. So we'll just review last week's for now. Do you want to review minutes first? Get it out of the way?
It's LebanonMaine.org, but that's probably not a key thing.
Lebanon, M-E?
No, Maine spelled out.
So we have 10 members.
Yes.
Okay. I was just
Whoever's written right there.
okay. All right. I was thinking about quorum and how do we know we have 50% if we don't know how many there are. So
I checked us in right here.
Okay, so quorum would be 5.
Yes, and we have 6 in attendance tonight. How do you guys feel about those minutes with the exception of the change of the website?
I'm fine with them, and I motion to accept them with as written with the addition of Maine after Lebanon, between Lebanon and Org.
Is there a dot between Lebanon and Org, or is it all just one word?
LebanonMaine.org.
And Lebanon, Maine is all one word?
Yep.
Correct.
Okay. All right, got it.
And you can make that change and then send me a formal copy for me to keep?
Okay, I can do that.
Yes?
Yeah, that's fine. Then you can, if you want to send it to me, I can get it posted
I'll send
on
it
the
to you.
website.
Yes, just copy us both, okay?
Yeah.
So this saves you from having to.
So do I have a second on that?
Try a second.
Okay, good. That's done.
All those in favor?
Oh, sorry. Yep. There we go. Alright guys, that's good. So last time we got together we talked about the attitude survey. And we were going to, yes I said, yeah that's fine. We were going to read those first 2 chapters in that guide because that talked to us about attitude surveys. and we were going to come up with 5 or more questions on what we could include in the attitude survey that's going to go out. Did anybody have any questions about that?
I wrote up some questions and other things. For example, I assume the attitude survey needs a little introduction and some questions.
So, who wants to start by sharing their questions that they came up
Why'd
with?
you look at me? Look up.
Here, I'll do
Because you're
it.
sitting right in front of me.
The reason I'll do it because I
You
printed
have a
them out.
printed copy, that's so organized.
So,
I just scribbled
Mine too.
mine.
Good.
I could just say overall, they're one, I thought we ought to have an introduction so that when people ask what's this for, we can tell them and we'll be consistent. Then the middle part, there's 4 questions that I suggested, and the last 12 or 13 questions are one is basically the heading of each inventory. So we're asking people about what we're going to be trying to figure out. So that's fine.
I think the introduction is very nice. Good job.
Thank you.
I think our questions are very similar.
I had a little twist on it. I thought we should find out how involved they are right now. So I thought we could ask questions like determining attitudes about involvement in the public arena, like do you attend public hearings? Do you vote? Do you feel that your voice is heard? Do you think the officials are and the committees are available to you? Those kinds of things. And then my favorite question was, why do you choose to live in Lebanon?
That's a good question.
It is. And I don't know whether that would be like a multiple choice kind of answer. Do we have to do multiple choice or can we leave it open-ended?
With my surveys, I found that if you give them multiple choice or other as a choice with a box to write in what they're thinking,
Okay.
I've gotten quite a bit of response in the other box.
Under
Okay,
SurveyMonkey,
Yeah.
So it
will
could
it
be,
tally what people
Yes.
if they put in other
Yes, it tells you how many clicked other, and then it lists
what they wrote in.
from the first one to the last one everything that they wrote in.
Okay.
Yeah. So
Yeah, because I was looking around at other surveys, other town surveys, and they were multiple choice. Like, for example, agree, disagree, somewhat disagree,
I
some
hate
Don't
stuff
I
like
hate
that.
I hate
those.
trying to pick those.
I know.
One that,
Yeah.
I think it was the one they did in early 90s.
So that is easier for us to tally though than having people, because I have a copy of this one as well. And for us to take the time to have to read through this handwritten stuff is going to be really tough. It's going to be very time consuming. And this was look how they did this. Like checkbox. We're not going to sit here and
Times
I
is
know,
different.
because then you have to
Times
go
are
with a
different.
ruler.
We didn't have
Yeah.
Right.
So this was actually just the most recent, not from the 90s.
Okay,
This was done.
2005.
Yes. So I think, in my opinion, just like they did here, important, very important, whatever,
Okay.
that would probably be the easiest way for us to tally them on something like SurveyMonkey, because if you give an other and have them write something in, it's still going to possibly print you out 100 different things, and we're going to have to count through. It's just my opinion.
I tend to agree with that because I can see on the flip side of that, all those little things, I can't even imagine you'd be cross-eyed by the time we did 3. I don't personally mind on the computer ones because you can just print out the answers. But I can see where everybody is not on the internet and some of those may be handwritten copies of the same. I can see where trying to read everybody's writing you know, and if we wanted to expand on some of the questions, we could certainly go back and focus on that later to find out more of what they're thinking. If we had a big response to one question, but we really wanted to, you know, get a little closer on it, we could go back and the next one could be on that item.
Can you under SurveyMonkey, can you have them check all that apply?
Mm-hmm.
So like if you were
You sure
asking, why do you choose to live in Lebanon, it might be families, it might be taxes, it might be school system.
You can really design it any way that you want, and that was that initial little survey that I did on my page. I don't know if you happen to notice, but some of them I was just kind of playing with SurveyMonkey to see what I could do and what I couldn't do, and some of them I had check all that apply, and other ones I had just check one because I wanted to see how the results came back. So you can actually do all of them, and like I said, they give you the results come back, and like they have it like a bar graph, they have a pie graph, they have all the answers, like how many for each answer, what percentage of the total. I mean, you really can get pretty in depth in analyzing your answers if you choose.
If somebody checked other and wrote in an answer, did it tally those out also?
Yes, it says like other 15. 15 people checked the other box, which would have been like, let's say 23% of the people that answered that question, and 40% of the people that answered the whole survey. And then it would, underneath that question, it would say, it had a little box that said other, and then it said, it's completely anonymous, so it doesn't give the name, but it says number one, I feel this is important. Number two, Deborah's a jerk, which I had a few of those too. But I mean, it completely listed everything, so you have the chance to visualize it too.
So we had discussed that we were going to keep this to a simple survey, right? We talked about 10 questions
at the most,
and then we were doing 1 or 2 questions of the day. We talked about, remember that?
Yep. Well, I mean, there's several. I think there's several angles that we can go to get. I think we can have more than 10 questions. It's just adding time if you're trying to get people to fill out a survey or questions. You have a 4-page thing. Like, I don't have the time to do this.
Yeah. No.
Yeah.
So if they've got 10 quick questions and it's multiple choice, bang, 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 they can get that done. And maybe you do 4 surveys of 10 questions each, that's 40 questions. So, so I think if you spread it out, so you can still have all your questions, but you have to do it. And just like we talked about the transfer station.
That's what I was just going to say. Think about standing in line at the transfer station trying to get people just to answer. They're not going to go with this.
So if you got 2 or 3 or 4 questions that you want to do at the transfer station on a Saturday, it's multiple choice, real quick, bing, 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 you're done, go, next. You're not
Is that a pretty good sampling of the town?
What, the transfer station?
Yeah, I mean, really, seriously, is it?
I don't know whether it's a good sampling. I mean, it's a way to get a bunch of people.
I think it's one of the better.
I think it's one avenue.
Places.
Yeah, I don't know what avenue, but I'm just thinking that not everybody goes in, not that they can't, but not that everybody goes into the transfer station every Saturday.
Right. Well, no, it was just a matter of if you're trying to get enough people to fill out where your survey is actually meaningful, you have to, where do people congregate?
Well, I know.
And quite frankly, a Saturday at the transfer station is the most people in Lebanon that congregate. You do a meeting up at the school, you're going to be lucky if you get 20 people on a Saturday.
Yeah, I guess you're right. Yeah.
So it's just the most efficient way to get a bunch of people. Whether it's a good cross section, I have no way to know.
I have a couple of suggestions on that, but before I do that, I was going to ask, do you have a list of the questions you thought were important? And can you give them to
Yes, I can.
Sarah?
Yep.
And then I've got 3 suggestions regarding public participation. One is talk to existing groups like Historical Society, Ladies Circle, whatever other groups in town you can think of. There's a manageable number of those groups. They're involved people. We could break up and one person go to each group and run down whatever list of questions we had.
Yep.
Second thing is,
11 Democrats, 11 Republicans, I mean, you even.
You name it.
You know.
second thing is identifying a limited number of people as suggested in the comprehensive planning thing for making up the group. So selectmen, representative of local boards, key town departments, 2 residents with more than 25 years, 2 residents with less than 5 years in town. Anyway, so we as a group identify people that we think would be useful to go interview. And it'd be like 15 people. Again, a group that a size that we can manage face to face. And last thing is do random sampling and have us use an actual random numbers table and say limit it to 100 people in the various areas of town. But all 3 of those things mean we're talking to a manageable number of people who are knowledgeable, who are involved, and or who are randomly chosen, so we're not biasing.
No, I love your, correct me if I'm wrong, but basically you're talking about like those 50 people is like what they would call a focus, especially what they would call a focus group. And they do that for all sorts of things.
And we could go to them intermittently.
Right, so they don't have to come to meetings, we can go to them or call them or email them or however way they want to be contacted just to get their input, because they're one of those demographics that we're trying to reach out to. And would they be willing to hear us and talk to us? I think that's great, because that's what focus groups are all about, whether it be for advertising, whether it be for new products, whether it be for.
If you're talking to groups around town, I'm not sure you're going to get a representative.
No, that's different.
That's not
That's
wide base.
one option. If you think that groups that are already existing are too biased, that's fine. But they are people who are involved.
You know, you're a couple of people that have, you have your old timers that have been here forever. You know what I'm saying? So that way you have those. I mean, maybe they're in their 70s, so they're seniors. So you know what they're talking about. You have business people.
Does that?
Business people. Yes, definitely. Just all your different stakeholders.
In let's see, page 2 of the manual, it lists.
Talks about all those.
And then page 8, it lists what Scarborough Planning Committee did. So let me pass this around.
I like that list, and when I read that, I wondered whether we're a representative group.
Ideally, that's what we would like to be, but it doesn't tend to be that way.
We're the first step.
Right, there may be some of that list here, but my guess is that we're missing some areas.
Except.
But I thought that was a really good list to aspire to, because it has just lots of different types of people who are involved in the town.
Questions, so.
Right, but this list right here is saying it's a suggestion of who should be on this board.
Right.
Correct.
And we don't have anybody beating down the door to join the board.
Well, that's my point.
I think we're all would agree that it's harder to get them to commit to coming every 2 weeks than it is to say, can I talk to you once a month about questions we have as we're doing.
You know where there's a huge assortment of people, and I don't know if they take the time, but that is the fall soccer games. That field is loaded with residents, parents, a lot of them just sitting around talking, waiting for their team to play.
And probably even Little League, right? Probably I don't go to Little League, but my guess is Little League probably has a bunch of
young. I think they've got 22 teams.
Yep. You're right.
Well, I obviously probably have a special interest, and nobody else from that 202 corridor has stepped forward and asked about joining. I noticed in reading the initial survey and this recent one, the town was really balanced. Did they or did they not want a commercial district? A lot of them didn't want commerce. They want to see that the rural roads, and others feel they need a commercial base to help out on the taxes. Right now, when we moved here 30 odd years ago, there were 5 businesses over there, 2 in the middle and 5 on the other side. In 2000, I put together that Route 202 and I don't know if any of you were here, and there were 29 businesses that got involved in that. So it's, there's no mention here, does the town want to encourage more businesses, and what kind of businesses?
No, I think that's,
And that was one of my questions.
One of mine.
I would like to see some more, I'm the only person who, from the 202 corridor.
Well, no, I live.
And I'm gonna, I cannot come to every meeting, it's really difficult for me to get up here by 6 o'clock. Maybe once fall comes and the traffic goes down, but,
That was one of the questions I had for the survey. It was, I believe commercial growth should be limited to a specific area, and it was a question, yes, no, and then you can go into another question and ask where did they feel that. And I think based on the past surveys, you're right, people were not looking to have a commercial district anywhere. But I think that has changed now since the planning board had to deal with that whole marijuana situation. So I think everybody's for it. They just don't want it in their backyard. So now that it's a potential, I mean, it was voted down, but that doesn't mean that it's not ever going to come back on the ballot. If
that middle section, that kind of blank section is wetlands. I don't think anything can go.
there's not a lot that can go there anyways, that's right.
Yeah, so
That's right.
I think now you have 2 sections.
But I think that we may have a better outcome of the residents looking for a commercialized area, I guess. I don't know what I'm trying to say. You know what I'm saying. I think
I mean, even
they're looking
today,
for that.
I fielded a question on my page about that Dunkin' Donuts. Is it going to happen? Is it not going to happen? And I told basically the truth that it had been discussed, but at this time, no plans had been placed on Mike's table. So right now, no, but possibility in the future. And it opened kind of a floodgate of people talking about businesses and where they wanted it to. So I think people are ready to talk about it. I really, really believe that people are ready to talk about it, and I think, the popping up everywhere of these marijuana grow houses and then you don't even know, and it's in your next door neighbor's barn, and then when you find out about it, you're kind of floored. But I think that the popping up of all these decent sized marijuana grow houses has people nervous about where in relation to their house the business is. So I really believe people are ready to talk about it. I hope so anyway, because I think
based on the vote and based on the public meetings that we held on the planning board for that, I do feel that I'm getting the feeling, I got the feeling right away that it was going to be voted away. And also that people were willing to talk about zoning.
Z. Did you say Z? Yeah, I think so too. I hear it more and more because they want to keep these businesses out of, the side streets. I mean, the ones that are there, they can't do anything to them, but they're there, they're permitted.
There were so many things that go with it, and you talk about setback, that was another thing. When the land was clear cut and the state line went in, it went up to the neighbor's boundary, so the kids could read it. If the trees were gone, the kids could read through the streetlights at night. I mean, those kind of things, setback, a buffer zone, I should say buffer zone rather than setback. So you're not in a resident's backyard.
What happened with Dollar General is right back to back to somebody's house.
And they stripped, when the state line went in, they stripped all the trees right out to the neighbor's boundary. So if you're going to welcome commercial, there still needs to be some sort of compliance with the neighborhood.
Well, I hate survey questions because they ask generalized questions and people don't know the specifics about any of these generalized questions, like do you want more commercial business in Lebanon? Well, it depends. They're all the details. So we'll get a survey question will give us somebody's knee-jerk reaction to this, but we will be doing, hopefully, the work of in these inventories, deciding, are there any areas in Lebanon that are good for commercial thing? Are there areas where it shouldn't go in? And so when we get to the second, or the preference survey, where we tell people, this is what we found looking at the situation as far regarding commercial development. Would you prefer this, or this, or this? And these are the viable options we've come up with. You'll get more specific, useful information.
Right, yeah, as you go down, yeah, you have
Right,
to
but
start
right
down.
now we're talking about the attitude survey, so we're getting a little bit ahead of ourselves with that. So we need to come up with the list of questions for the
I just
attitude
gave him
survey.
one question.
Yeah, you don't need to
Okay.
hand these to me, cause we're gonna
Oh.
do roundtable
Okay,
discussion
that's right.
Okay.
on what your questions were that you came up with. So let's circle back to that. And Harvey handed out his list, so let's just talk about that. Harvey, do you wanna share your questions with us, and then we're gonna kind of roundtable it. Everybody's just gonna
Sure.
share their questions, and let's see how many are similar.
I handed them out, so
Yep.
they're in front of everybody.
So who's taking notes?
But the camera
I am.
can't read paper.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay. All right.
Other one?
You insist. For the camera. Questions are, what do you like and want to keep as part of Lebanon? What do you not like and want to change? What problems do you think Lebanon has? What would you like to see in the future in Lebanon? Those are the general questions. And then questions related to the inventory.
Do you envision those being multiple
Yeah,
choice?
can we just stay with those attitude questions here, cause everybody has, I think, 5, right?
Yep, let's just stick with the attitude questions
Okay.
for now. Let's stick with those 4 that he talked about. Okay.
Becky, you wanna go?
Yeah, I don't know how to phrase this, but you could probably combine these into one if someone was really clever with words about, just getting a sense of the empowerment and engagement in policies in town. Do you vote? Do you attend public meetings? Maybe that could be one question. And then, do you feel that your voice is heard? And that's another. Then I had a question about, do you think there's enough activities for different age groups? And those were the same as Harvey's. And then, that's the same. What do you think is greatest priority for Lebanon's future? Same as Harvey. And then, why do you choose to live in Lebanon? I have a feeling we'll find out that it's.
No, but I like your question about are you active in local concerns and do you vote and stuff. I think that's so important because I don't think a lot of people really know their
Well, and
voice.
that could be include a lot of different things like, do you vote? Do you go to public hearings? Are you a member of a civic group? Or are you on a board? Are you, all these different ways of being engaged in the town?
right.
Do you
That's
coach? Do you, there's a lot of, do you work in town or out of town? I mean, that's another question.
Another good one too.
But I don't know if that's an attitude.
I think most
Well-
people are going to work out of town than in town because our commercial
Our commercial
is
basis.
very
No.
slim.
A lot of the questions that you're mentioning are what they call demographic questions.
Right.
So they're not really attitudes, they're just, you're trying to, because what bigger cities will do is they'll actually hire a company to do the survey and they're gonna get your results and they're gonna break it down by men like this, women like this, under 20 like this. People
Survey
that work-
Monkey does that too, man.
people that work here do this, so again, that's what all those demographics allow them to slice and dice the results in a lot of different.
So is that part of the initial survey or does that come later?
I think there probably should be some demographics for every survey that we do, whether it be rough age groups or male, female, Just something so that we have an idea, so that way we can look and say, gee, all our responses are from women over 50. We're not getting any young people, we're not getting any, so that way we can see if we're missing a segment of the population. So that's why I think demographics are good, because you can see if you're getting a good cross-section.
Right.
How much you slice and dice it. Again, if you're trying to do a 4-question survey, if you're doing it there and you're just doing it, you can see male, over, you can get close yourself without actually having to ask the question.
Right. Deborah?
So, my first question was what people think Lebanon has to offer for young families. What would draw a young family here? My second one is whether or not people attend church. I think that's some may not choose attend church. I mean, some people may not choose to answer that because it's it's not really our business, but it gives us kind of a feel of the base.
If it's anonymous, I don't.
The last survey I saw that a census survey the demographic survey or whatever that I saw that mentioned that was, I think 2001, and they have us listed as like 58% non-conforming, and and I thought that was so funny because I hear a lot of people talking about church now, so I think that's important. I also wanted to know if people think that MSID 60 was working for Lebanon as being involved in a school district rather than our own schools. As everybody seemed to, I asked if people favored a commercial zone in Lebanon, and I also asked if people thought this was a good place for their children now to grow and buy homes and raise families. Did they envision that in the future as a good place for their children to be when they become a family age?
Did you have a chance to make questions? I know you weren't here.
Well, I don't have much to offer other than what everybody else has in there. Perhaps the growth of the town. And I don't know if you'd start that for a survey. Like, it's a tremendous amount of land for sale right now. Each parcel of this land represent 10 or 12 houses. This is going to represent a big growth in the school. And I don't know where you go with that. My other issue had been that it was the commercial thing, because I'd like to see somebody involved in a commercial part.
Anything else?
Not really, because I think everybody else covered it. I think Harvey and Deborah did.
I'm like keeping track of how many of you say the same thing. So that
Well, actually, I thought that perhaps, like with the Survey Monkey, you might want to start with some really basic questions like, what do you feel is Lebanon's biggest challenge?
I get that too.
And what do you like best about Lebanon?
Get that too.
And I just think with those two, you're going to get so many responses, we'll have a lot of other directions to go after that.
But those two can't be very important.
I know.
Those two
Yeah,
can't be.
figure out how that
They're
goes.
going to be.
If you
Fill in the blank.
limit the number of people you ask, if you're hoping to get 1,000 people, then of course no one's going to want to go through that list. But if those are still useful questions, and if you limit it to, we're going to ask 15 people, or we're going to ask the Ladies Circle, and we're going to ask the Historical Society, and
We cannot
Well, I
do
think
that with
somebody-
a comprehensive plan.
I
know
think
you keep
Look,
going
you
back to
can
that,
choose.
but you can't do that with the base. Not with your overall survey. You cannot, because what you're trying to do is represent a cross section, and certainly just the people in the historical society
I
or the
wasn't.
ladies circle are not a cross section of Lebanon residents.
No. I
No,
think what he's
you
talking
should
about
have a
is-
list actually.
We're
of
talking about the
certain-
attitude survey.
Right, but
So
still,
you
you
can't.
should have a list of some business owners and some
Later.
different.
Not
No,
the
but I
attitude
think with
survey.
this too, and have it out there in the general public.
That's not
But
what they recommend. they recommend surveying as large of a population as you can.
Correct, so
Well,
with-
correct,
with
but you
that-
still
with
wanna
that-
make sure you
What we're
get,
talking about,
Right,
the attitude survey.
Right, but with that,
you still wanna make
how
sure.
do you get as many people as possible?
Oh
So
yeah, I
that's-
see.
So one of the ways to do it is you have groups in town that meet.
Mm-hmm.
Whether it be a bean supper up at the Legion,
Mm-hmm.
and you get a bunch of people there, whether it be a historical society meeting, whether it be the Lebanon Democrats, whether it be the Lebanon Republicans, whether it be so you go there.
Or the
Right,
soccer
and get the
field,
survey.
yeah, the soccer field that's got younger,
But that's how you gotta get younger, older, is target.
No.
Not for this
So
attitude survey,
No, for the focus group was
Right.
based on the manual that as we get into things and we have questions, instead of trying to get another big survey, you
Right,
can go to a focus group, which hopefully if
Right,
you've
later.
developed the focus group, you can ask more specific questions. And hopefully if you develop this focus group correctly, you're gonna get a nice cross section of ideas.
And I think when you're doing that general survey, the attitude survey, if you find someone that's very interested in answering those questions, get them now. Get their information and ask them to be part of the focus group then.
right, but that's what I was saying is right now, we're not talking about later on focus groups, we're talking about the first attitude survey, and I know that I keep hearing, Sarah, I think, frustration in that we keep getting off the topic, and right now we're talking about the attitude survey, we're not talking about further down the line in focus groups. And I think we just really need to get a first attitude survey.
Right, but
On
I mean,
what?
you can take that attitude survey to the soccer field, to the
Yes,
historical
absolutely
society,
can.
to
Yeah.
you know.
But
Yeah.
right now we're talking about the questions we want to ask.
Right.
And I'm seeing a lot of the questions come up are good, but then a lot of questions are not pertaining to the town. We don't care if anybody goes to church. I'm not trying to be rude, but
No,
we don't care. We need to know what they feel about the town, not
Right.
what
Well,
people are doing. We want to know how they feel about the town because that's our focus. Is we need to find the wicked issues. Remember?
Correct. Yeah.
So that's what we're trying to find. We're not looking for preference survey questions. We're looking for attitude survey questions. How do you feel about the town?
So here's
Yeah.
a couple for you. Have you done yours?
She has
I
not.
just did what do you feel is Lebanon's biggest challenge, and what do you like about best about Lebanon?
I think we're all kind of on that one.
Do you have any others?
No.
So, trying to keep it as multiple choice. So here's one that, again, is similar to what everybody else has said. Don't change anything. I like Lebanon the way it is.
Oh, I like that. Like true or false.
Strongly agree,
Oh.
neutral, disagree, strongly disagree, don't know.
Well, but unfortunately, if you don't do anything, it's gonna change.
Doesn't matter. It doesn't. Which is an attitude. It's just
Yeah.
an attitude.
Yeah.
Yes, sensing the public's attitude.
Yeah.
So,
You know,
My
my
I like
point is,
that.
I like that.
When they answer the question, you obviously judge them right there and then, but
so another one is what's one thing you would change about Lebanon? Planning and land uses, recreation. Now some of these are I didn't come up with these out of my own head. Understand?
Oh, here I was thinking
But
you
what
were
I'm saying-
smart too.
But what I'm saying is that we can put things in here that we want. So this says collaboration and diversity, cost of living, natural environment, public utilities and services, local economy, crime and vagrancy, transportation, or lack thereof. I mean, so we can make that list to
Senior
try to,
services.
You
you
could,
know,
Where'd you pull that
Recreation
list?
opportunity.
huh?
Where'd you get that list?
I don't know. I'm all over the place.
you could almost use the same list for what do you like about Lebanon and what do you think needs to be changed.
So the other thing is before that is tell us one of your favorite things about Lebanon.
Yeah.
Recreation, sense of place, natural environment, quality of life, transportation, size, local economy, location, equity, social justice, or other. And again, we can make that list,
Right.
Mhm.
You tailor
but
it.
that's and that's trying to get it a little bit more defined
Mhm.
rather than open-ended with a question just what do you like best and just let them write something in.
Yeah,
That way you can maybe kind of fit
we
into
should think positively as well.
Right.
So it's what's your favorite thing? and that's what's the one thing that you would change. And they could all be it could be the same list, it could be a little bit different. Another one, and they had, and I forget, this was Bellingham out on the other side of the country, Bellingham, Washington. So they had select the 3 legacies that are most important to you, and they have all these different legacies. So healthy environment, vibrant, sustainable economy, clean, safe drinking water, access to quality of life amenities, safe and prepared community, sense of place, equity and social justice, quality responsive city services, mobility and connectivity options. And then they actually kind of go into detail what each one of those are. But, so that was one. Another one I had was the full survey. Choose 3 ways you would prefer to receive information regarding community meetings, community issues, or community events.
Oh, that's a good one.
View municipal webpage. View a different, they have another webpage. Inserts and utility bills, refuse bills, or U.S. mail. Read it in the Daily Times, which could be some newspaper. Email, social media, township newsletter. So
That's a really good one for a survey, I think.
It is, but we can't afford to be sending stuff by mail.
So leave that option on.
So that's, I mean, like I said,
But that
Can it
doesn't,
go out with tax?
that
Way
doesn't mean
to-
we don't need to know that. I mean, if people prefer,
It's not
we could
every
ask
time
for
you get a positive
budget.
answer when you get a tax bill, but if
No,
the tax bills are going out
if
anyway.
it saves postage, we get them stuffed. I have to ask because
Or
somebody
even a
else
slip check.
somebody else does them. So I don't know whether
Okay.
And you might not get them back.
putting something.
And you
else
might
in
not get a
it.
positive
Because you'd
answer.
have, well, you'd have to insert a prepaid, a postage paid envelope,
You're right.
and
And
then
even
we get them
still,
back, and then we
yeah,
won't get them back.
forget it.
But I think that question about town, how do you want to be? That's a preference
How do you
question.
want to? Oh, it is.
Because you're asking
Oh, yeah.
how do they
Oh.
prefer to be contacted by something?
Yeah, I just thought that maybe that would be
Oh.
useful because it would tell us.
It will be useful when we do our preference survey.
Right, it would tell us maybe the better ways to send these surveys out. You know what I mean?
and if people
I
resoundingly
think
say
we're gonna
they
have
want to
find
get something
people
by
to get the
mail,
survey, because as many public meetings as we've held with the planning board about very important issues, I've paid to advertise them, donated the money to pay to advertise it online. It was on the website. People were talking to everybody, and we still got maybe 30 people to show up to these
Well, I
meetings.
mean, we had good attendance for the 250th, but I was telling some of the people that came to the meeting just just after that, I was telling them like, when I was putting up my pictures, on the page, all of a sudden I get these people saying to me like, I didn't even know we were having a 200, and I was like,
It was
They're all
posted
over
at
the place.
the fire department. I mean, it was posted
It
everywhere.
was posted
So
everywhere.
if people want to find the information, they'll find it. Unfortunately, it's going to be our job to go to them. And
right,
the best place to get people to talk to is an election, which we don't have until November.
right.
And the transfer station on Saturdays, I know that not everybody goes, but there's a huge amount of people there.
Right.
And some of the businesses in town.
and to get a cross section, we could even go to a 4x4 event, and
4x4
different-
has a lot of people from out of town.
Out of town.
Yeah, a lot of
Right.
people.
So
You
we
have
want-
to just definitely make sure they were
yeah.
from in town.
That's what I was
Yeah.
concerned about with trains, because you had mentioned trains, and I worry that we're having a lot of people who go from Sanford to Rochester.
Yeah, well,
Yeah, the
I
soccer
I
soccer
thought about
moms
that.
and the
Right.
youth thing that
Right.
you'll get the
Those are all.
That's
Yeah.
what we're
And
trying to do.
That's
I thought about that while I was watching the video. I didn't want you to think I meant I wanted us to sit in the bar. I meant,
Oh, well, that was what I was looking forward to.
Yeah, I was
That's the
actually
only reason
talking
I was
about the
gonna
front
go.
side of trains, like. And I was
would.
like, I wonder if she was thinking I
We're
wanted
gonna
to be
put a
there
sign.
eating the 20-cent
Please
wings,
visit the comprehensive plan committee.
Yeah,
In
white
the back
booth,
booth.
with
In
the
the
chicken
back.
wing
Yeah.
sauce. Right,
back
but
booth is
I
quiet.
thought about
Wait,
that when I
what's
was
Just do it
watching.
early.
What night is the wing night? What night's that?
Tuesdays and Thursdays.
Thursdays.
Yeah, well, that's the night we need to go.
20-cent wings, and that place is packed.
So the questions I came up with were kind of similar to everybody else's questions. So one was, I believe commercial growth should be limited to a specific area. That was kind of a yes or no, or true or false. What would you like to preserve in Lebanon? And that could be any place, like monuments, whatever. anything. What would you like to change in Lebanon? Those are same. Where do you shop or get services? And I think that was just asking if they were shopping in town, basically, is where I was going with that.
General.
What would you like to see in Lebanon that's not here? And how many years have you lived in Lebanon? Those are my questions.
Yeah, are you hitting an age group anywhere? Are you asking ages? Do you fall within a certain?
I didn't on my questions, but that did come up right here.
Yeah.
Age group and gender.
Right, yeah.
So would that be part of our survey? To ask a little demographic information?
I think
at the
age group
beginning?
and gender was a really good one,
Right.
without getting too in depth with demographic questions, just so we can say, okay, we're seeing an influx of people in this age group or this age group.
Yeah, I think it's important to know who we're talking to. I do.
I mean, I think asking if they work in town or out of town is pretty obvious. I'm not really
Yeah.
sure. When we're trying to limit questions, I think that's
Right.
kind of.
Well,
it's
it's attitude. That's like you
Most
said,
people,
going around town.
and the same thing for shopping, actually, for that matter.
I mean, you
There's
can
really
bet
not a
on
lot of
the-
Really nothing to
There's really
shop.
not a lot of
I
shopping.
mean, unless
in
we're
town.
having a
So,
run on banquet fried, frozen
You know,
fried chicken and
so I
Dollar
mean,
General, because that's what I see
you know,
everywhere.
are you shopping in Sanford or Rochester? I mean, but does that really matter for us? Not really.
It doesn't.
Right, right.
You know,
Or
so.
would you like to see more commercial businesses, more businesses in town?
Well, again, that's
That's
you know,
just an
that's
attitude.
ultimately
That's
a bigger
kind of just
question.
an attitude. Would you like to see?
And that's what we're
More
doing
business.
is an attitude survey.
Right.
So
But
maybe
not where
would
you shop, it's would you like?
Yeah, if we did something like, would you like to see more services in Lebanon? Senior services, recreation services, grocery shopping.
I think that's getting way too entailed though. So
Yeah.
basically what I have here, as we kind of went through our questions, I kind of tried to keep a tally of what everybody was saying, and a lot of us said the same thing. 2 people had mentioned the future, so I don't know how to word the question, but we talked about the future of Lebanon. 2 people had mentioned that while we were sitting at the table. It was pretty much a full consensus of all 7 of us sitting at this table that said, what do you like about Lebanon? And then I have that twice. What do you not like? Almost a full consensus for that too. People were looking to find that out. Age group / gender. School district was brought up twice.
What about the school district?
I'm sorry.
What about the school?
Somebody mentioned if they felt the
I
school
asked
district
if-
was good.
If people thought that belonging to a school district was good for Lebanon. And then,
But I
school question.
the only question I have with that is does it really matter?
I don't think we can do much
I don't know
about
if
it.
we
We
can
don't
either.
That's what I'm
have.
saying. Do you, I mean,
This is a comprehensive plan, which is in the future, and if more people are thinking that we should start focusing on our children here in town, it's a
no.
good
I'm
option
saying
for the
what your
future,
question
start
was
looking
about
at
a school district.
Correct. Do you think that we ought to be belonging to this
We don't
regional
have-
school system, or do you think that we ought
Should
to
have our
start
own school system.
I don't think we have that option.
Well, that's
Well,
not.
we don't have the millions of
isn't about
dollars
today.
to build school at
This
the
isn't
school.
about today. I didn't think this was about today. This is
You're right.
planning.
Yeah, but I don't
Correct.
see whether even if this town wanted to have its own school district, and even if everybody said that's there, states are not going in that direction. There's not money.
Well,
and so-
yes and no. I'm watching just over the border. Milton has now changed. Farmington has now changed, which was a combined school with Milton for a long time. Those 2 are now changed. I mean, there are a lot of schools that are splitting combined schools and going back to a smaller high school. So whether you think that's going to happen
I think
in
you mean
Lebanon
Middleton.
or not.
Not Milton.
Middleton.
Middleton. I'm sorry, Middleton. She's
But
right.
and
I
then
think-
you can flip the coin of that and ask how all of those residents feel about their taxes taking a huge hike.
Yeah.
So
Right.
That's preferences, that's
Yeah,
not
that's-
attitude.
so I'm just going through the list of questions that everybody
Yeah,
had brought
that's
up.
fine.
So there was
Right.
2 people who brought up school district, okay? Town growth, that was almost a consensus. We actually had 4 or 5 who talked about town growth. Biggest challenge, there was 2, and then change, but I think that might go along with what do you not like? because what would you like to change?
Right.
That might go hand in hand.
Yeah, I think I'd probably almost
Maybe I'll make
ask,
that
what do you
change.
like to change?
Here's a question I had, I pulled out that is about land use that might work for us. Says the following is a list of objectives that could be used to guide future growth and development in, I'm just gonna say Lebanon. Please read the list of 10 items and decide which are most important and least important to you. Place the letter M next to the 3 objectives that are most, and the letter L next to the 3 objectives that are least. Maintaining a low level of environmental pollution, having access to open space, parks, green belts, wooded land near residential areas, expanding the variety and availability of retail goods and services, improving personal security and public safety, attracting business, maintaining and enhancing the visual appearance of buildings and landscaping, increasing education opportunities for all groups, protecting neighborhoods from encroachment by non-residential land uses, building and maintaining livable neighborhoods, encouraging a sustainable region, and then other. Now, a lot of those actually could very easily apply.
Well, there's a couple there that I like, because it doesn't say, do you want a police department? It says, do you want to focus on your personal safety? And I think sometimes questions that make people think about personal safety are better than questions that say, do you want a guy standing there on the corner with a radar gun? You know what I mean? Like, sometimes it's the way that you put things.
Yep.
And I think some of the, whatever the third one or the fourth one there was.
Improving personal security and public safety.
Yeah, but there was another one there too that I liked the way it was written. Instead of coming right out and saying like, do you want this bad thing? You know, which.
Well, protecting neighborhoods from encroachment by non-residential land uses.
Yeah, that wasn't the one.
So, but I'm just saying
I'm not even sure what that means.
It was,
Wheelers.
you can also we did that sort of thing too, Chip, in our first survey, where we did most important to,
Yeah.
Yeah, so
You
it was
could- before you
protect our
grade it.
neighborhoods from encroachment by non-residential land uses. So that kind of speaks to the buffer zone
Right.
that Judy was speaking of, and I thought that was put quite nicely. You know, like, do you want an area between you and a business? You know, I mean, some of the wording of those was,
Right.
I think, key. I liked those.
The town we came from, that was a really strong issue. That town is I said somebody today, Lebanon is so wide open and Northampton is so restricted. So there's a balance between them two. And I would hate to see Lebanon become quite so restricted, but Northampton is not a bad spot either. But they did encourage, there has to be a buffer. And I think I look it up, I think it was 25 feet between your business and your house.
And it makes sense.
That would
But
require an
The
ordinance.
town that I came from, you couldn't just clear cut right to the edge of the water. You could not.
We're getting off track again,
Had to
guys.
leave trees, but well, yeah, you're right.
Ordinances would be
And that was
too.
done into the hands
Right.
slap afterwards.
Right.
Well,
Sorry
so
about that.
we got you've got a list of some questions there, survey questions. I mean, we could either say, let's make that the survey. Another alternative would be for somebody to take all the questions that people have written down and make a list of how many,
I like to,
3 people wanted this, 3 people wanted this,
I like to try to make a list of
all of
questions
them put
of
together.
a hash, and then we can tweak them. Say, let's, no, we don't need this one, or
I'd like to
Okay.
see
Reduce
them
it down
written
to-
much more like those were written. I think, instead of saying, what don't you like? Which opens the door to negativity.
So we need
What
a,
would you like to see
we need a
change?
volunteer,
You know?
I suggest.
We don't need a volunteer because we're going to talk about it right now. We're going to write them down and we're going to tweak them ourselves. And we're going to start with future. So how do you want to word that question? Who talked about the future? Who brought up a question?
Hey,
I had future.
one, you had one.
You had future.
And how did you write it?
I said, what is your greatest priority for Lebanon's future? Well, how did you word it?
I said, what would you like to see in the future in Lebanon?
Well, there you go.
I had one about the future too. Do you envision your children wanting to raise their family in Lebanon in the future? So
That's
Not
pretty
everyone has
specific though.
children, yeah.
yeah,
That's pretty.
So that might be one of the answers to their
Right.
question is something to do with children raising their families here.
Yeah.
But that's
It's more narrow.
right. It is
Yeah.
more narrow. But I just want to, because she asked who had questions on the future.
Mhm, yeah.
Okay, so what would you like to see in the future of Lebanon? Is that gonna, do you guys feel, that's kind of a fill in the blank.
Yeah.
We can't do
But
a
if you said-
multiple choice.
If you
it's
said,
really,
what
it's
is
really hard to give certain select answers to that question for them.
Right.
what is your greatest priority for Lebanon in the
Then it
future?
narrows it to one. They can only give one answer.
Or
Your greatest priority.
rate these items in order of your priorities. I know sometimes they do that.
I just don't. I'm
I don't wanna
nervous about
pick
our
the
first
items
one. Right. I'm nervous
for
about our
people.
first one, giving them like 800
I
options.
think if you leave it as a write-in, there's nothing necessarily wrong with that, but it's gonna be a write-in. Or you might be able to get close by saying, what's again, using two questions, which is, what's your favorite thing? And what's the one thing that you would change?
That you would change.
Yeah.
And
Right.
so those two kind of,
What if we put it down to, what is one thing you'd like to see for the future of Lebanon? And then, so they're not enticed to sit there and write an entire book.
that's fine.
That's
Yeah.
a good idea.
Yeah.
That's fine.
That's a
Yeah,
good idea.
because it-
Limit it.
And that's, Becky had said your which is one priority, so either way, yeah, one thing. They get to give one answer, not 20.
Cool.
But that's hard to do on SurveyMonkey.
Well, we're probably going to
No.
be giving out paper surveys at places too.
Okay.
And on SurveyMonkey, she said she can have a fill in the
Yes,
blank.
and the fill in the blank thing, so that they can't go on and on, you can limit the number of words.
Characters.
To their answer.
Tweet.
So you
And
can
you can
say, this answer cannot be more than 100 words. So they can't go crazy with listing 200 things.
The other thing the way you can redo is, what's the first thing, because as you say, what's the first thing that comes to your mind when you think about the future of Lebanon? Just,
I prefer just a limited number of words rather than, it doesn't have to be the first thing that comes to your mind, just.
right.
Except for
I
that
like
you're out
that.
doing
What's-
paper
What's the
surveys, it's already
most
come to
important
words.
thing?
We can't
Yeah.
select those words
The one thing.
because we don't know.
Right, but that's what, if we were doing it all on SurveyMonkey, you can ask other, and you can limit the
Right.
number of words. So if you're at the transfer station and you say, one thing,
Excuse me.
but you
Thank you.
can't count the words to make sure they didn't go over.
Supposed to be
I know, but it was aggravating me.
Wow.
Oh, you wouldn't need to, you say,
One
what's your
thing.
one thing, and then as soon as you get it, you say, good.
Okay, yeah, we just
Good,
wanted to
good,
say one
okay,
thing. What's
okay,
the one thing
yeah,
you would
that's
like to
good.
see in the future of Lebanon? Yeah.
I think that's good.
Number
Oh,
two.
so many though.
But you can only pick one. What do you like about Lebanon? I think that's pretty straightforward, right? That question's
Well, what was the
basically
first one again?
done. So the first one was the future. So we said, what is one thing you would like to see in the future of Lebanon?
Okay,
And that's totally open-ended.
okay.
Number two.
I had phrased that a little differently. What do you value most about Lebanon?
No, it's not, because that's present.
No, that's the next question.
Right, that's the
You're-
next
what-
one.
what do
She
you
was-
value
she was with you
present
on the next
about
one.
Lebanon?
That's what this
That's
next.
No, she was talking.
Yeah,
she was
she was
going on to the next
She had
one.
just read the next one,
Right.
so Becky was answering
What
to
do you
that.
like about Lebanon? That was pretty much
What's
across
the
board.
one
Best,
thing?
if you put
I
best
think we ought to
about.
stay with the one thing. I think that's what's the thing you like most, or what's the one thing?
Yeah, I mean, this one here was, tell us one of your favorite things about Lebanon, and then it had a list, and it does have all the.
Yeah, but I like the one
Limiting it to
thing.
one.
I do,
That
I
is
do, I
one
like
of your
probably
favorite-
useful.
One of your favorite things.
Yeah, some people could go on and on.
I can.
Yeah, we wanna make
We
it
all
simple.
know that, right?
We want to make it simple because you have to remember we're probably going to have less than 5 minutes with these people while they're
That's
at the
what I'm
transfer
saying, limit it to
station.
No,
one
one
thing.
Quick,
thing
quick,
sounds
quick.
good.
What do you like?
What's the one
Or
thing?
what's the
Right.
one thing? Or the main thing?
The one.
That's the main thing you like about Lebanon.
What's the thing you like best of all?
What do you like best about Lebanon?
Tell us one of your favorite things.
I would be
about Lebanon.
hard pressed to say one thing,
I like your sister's floral bouquets.
What do you
but that's not
like best?
not an answer.
But it's what I like best at this very moment.
What do you like best about Lebanon?
Yeah.
Sounds good.
So
Okay.
you're not gonna limit to the one? What
No.
one thing?
No. What do you like best? If they spit out 3 things, why
We
not?
can just check them off and
Yeah.
tally them on our list.
Um,
So what's the list?
We don't have to have a
I-
really.
Oh,
They-
fill in the blank.
Sarah.
Huh?
I thought these were fill in the
They
blank.
attitude ones are like fill in the blank.
Yeah, they will create the list for us as we
Yeah.
read. We'll add to the list and tally.
I'm not being a pain in the back, but can we ask for a consensus, who thinks it ought to be open-ended and who think it ought to be one thing? Cause I really, really think we ought to say one thing. I think it ought to be included in the question.
Well, we're just making a list of questions right
So the
now,
answer
and
is
then
no?
we're gonna tweak them.
Okay.
So we may change our mind about that entire question. Let's just make a list of questions,
Okay.
and then we're gonna tweak them.
Okay.
Sound good?
Okay.
Because we may decide we don't even want that question anymore, so it was not even worth that
Okay.
whole vote or anything, right?
Okay.
So some of these, I mean, basically what we're doing right now though is they're fill in the blank.
Well, that's my question, is I'm not sure,
I'm not
if
sure.
you're doing
either.
all fill in the blanks, I think that's a wrong way to go.
I think
So how do we
too.
determine what's the best
Well, we don't want to steer people though either.
thing about Lebanon?
Yeah,
How
There's
do we
always
choose?
another, you're not steering, you're using broad categories, so you're not steering, you're trying to get your broad categories and you have an other, so if it's.
So if there's something different,
they can-
then
So
Some
just for
people
an
might
example,
Wings night at trains.
Right, these,
Because what happens, you get a lot of people going, I don't know,
right.
what's fair, I don't know.
Yeah,
And
it's,
they skip it, they go to the next one, but if you have something there, oh yeah, okay. yeah, I
what
like
would you
that.
suggest to put in for? What do you like best about Lebanon?
rural character.
Quality of life.
Right, rural character, quality of life. I would do rural character,
Size.
Life.
They like the small size.
Roads.
roads.
No, but you say
We're
location.
getting a new one.
Right, location.
So that
Proximity
could be,
to the
you know, that
border.
could be
How many-
location.
How many options did they give you there?
I don't know, 8,
I
10.
think that's
Which
too many.
which do you think apply to?
Well, that's why I didn't do them all. Sense of place, people don't really know what that means. Recreation, maybe.
Recreation.
Yeah.
Or recreational
Natural
opportunities.
environment, maybe. That's also kind of location.
And then, I
And-
think,
That's why I kind of,
I think schools
location
should be
is
on that list also, because that's a huge factor for people who decide to live someplace.
What?
I agree.
Schools.
Schools. People, families that are looking for a place to live, they look right hard at
Yeah.
the schools.
Yeah, I think it should be on there somewhere.
Size, I guess, is local economy. I mean,
Taxes.
just because we don't think so, or I may not think that's a great reason to live here, doesn't mean somebody else doesn't. I mean, if
Correct.
they have a business here, they may think this is a good area.
So
I mean,
location.
it's agricultural, it's a good place for a business, for an ag business, so.
So location, rural, recreation, schools, other.
I think so. Read them again.
Get rid of it again.
Location.
Location, rural, recreation, schools, other.
Yeah, we need.
Rural is location.
I was gonna
Right.
say
You
that
said
too.
it twice.
Huh?
So I was just writing as you went. So what did
You
it
Why
mentioned-
did I
say?
say rural? Small.
Yeah, you did.
Recreation,
No, you said rural.
or natural environment.
Well, rural came up over here.
Yeah. Oh.
Yeah, I never said rural, it's not on the list.
Jim
Somebody-
didn't say it, so
somebody did.
don't scratch it.
Right, Jim didn't say it, so it doesn't matter. I think, isn't it on there, rural? Something about.
It's not.
Well,
I thought I heard
I
it.
can tell
You
you
did.
what the results were for the last survey we did.
Yeah, but what year was that?
2013. We had demographics, country atmosphere, small and people. Oh, never mind. It's small.
Small size, yeah, that
Rural
was a,
character, a simple place to
Oh,
live.
rural character.
little government,
But that's location.
people,
That's
natural beauty, that we're a small town with friendly people. Kept commercial building on 202 to a minimum.
Is that what people wrote in or what?
Yeah, they were
what the
things.
choices?
Yeah, but natural environment would be your recreation and your location, right?
Old fashioned values,
No.
rural
Recreation would
aspects.
be
I
the-
think
What would-
natural environment means
What would
tree
like
growth
trees
space,
and
rivers.
water.
Yeah, that's
Rural
not
area.
necessarily, that's because you enjoy the area, not necessarily because of the recreation of 4x4 or dirt bikes or snowmobiling or walking.
And but recreation would also include the rec program, the summer
Little
camp.
league,
Recreation
Little
is
league,
all
yeah,
inclusive.
all of that.
So I got location, recreation, schools, natural environment, other.
I'd
Size-
say services,
size.
but we don't have any.
I think you should put taxes.
And you said school, right? Oh, quality of life?
I don't know if taxes have a place there, because we can't change that.
Low tax.
Right, but isn't that a factor in whether people?
Well, you could write economy, because then that's
Well,
business
that's local economy.
tax.
That's-
Right, you could.
That's
you
local
could
economy.
And I don't think we were, yeah, so I think local economy, cause that includes business, and tax and expense and.
Okay.
Well,
I think that's a good way to-
I'm picturing these options as more sort of thought starters for people if they don't, not that we need to be comprehensive and list every possible option. Just,
Yeah.
if we say 3 or 4 options, just to get them thinking.
Which 3 or 4 would you choose to cover all the options they may have in their head?
No, I think you're probably pretty close to.
Yeah, I think so too. I
With
think
another.
that's-
So basically, what do you like best about Lebanon? Circle all that apply, or select all that apply and let them check.
Well, this
off
is tell us
whichever.
one of your favorite things. We're trying to narrow it down, because if they do a bunch of them, then we really don't know what they're, we don't know where we focus. We're trying to.
I
Right,
don't think we're gonna
selecting
get
one.
people to
Okay.
choose just one of these.
No, I think you could choose
Yeah, it's their
2,
favorite- it's their
choose
favorite.
3.
No, I think it's their favorite. I mean,
Your
that's like,
favorite.
you're trying
That's what I said,
you're trying to get their priorities. That's their
So
attitude.
choose one.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's
This
why
is
I
tell us
kept
one of your
targeting
favorite
one.
things.
And does this fit into rural commuting, to employment outside of the town? Does it fit into 3 regional airports nearby? I mean, it's all location that is.
It's
the-
location and it's
probably another
economy.
word that you could use.
Yeah, she
It's
has.
convenient to, whether you work on a shipyard or you work at the university.
What's location?
Right.
It's a location to, I don't mean the
it too
location
broad?
of the trees.
Is it too broad, you mean?
Work, location,
Yeah.
Commuter location.
I mean, you have location, you have local economy.
proximity to work? Is that what you're?
Employment.
Just because you don't
Proximity
have
to
employment in
employment.
town doesn't mean that traveling 10 miles over the line is, then that's location.
Right.
Employment location? I don't
I
know,
think
forget
that
it.
Women
location's gonna be
Yeah.
all inclusive, just like
That's where we
recreation
won't,
is gonna
if
be all
you
inclusive.
say location,
Right.
and then you don't know what they mean, and it doesn't tell you much.
But they chose to live here because of the location, so.
Right.
Well, I mean, a lot of people live here
For
because
whatever reason.
their job is nearby, or they. I mean,
Right.
I came here
But
because it
location is
was within
for whatever
community
reason,
distance
just
to a
like.
lot of different
they
markets
say
for a job.
recreation.
So.
I mean, that's useful information. Somebody that answers location and you don't know if it's because of commuting to shopping, commuting to work. It's lots of green trees in this location. I don't see
Being able
anybody
to
in this
ride their
location.
bikes.
I mean, the location just doesn't tell you anything.
And we can't do anything about the location. We're here.
Well, unless we take location out.
Well, you can.
I
You
wouldn't,
can
so I guess
move.
I wouldn't use location. It doesn't
Yeah, if you
give
don't
us
wanna be
any
here,
information.
you can move.
We don't know what that
Right.
means to them.
Right,
If you
'cause
said
location-
proximity
Because
to
location could
shopping.
be local economy, it could be natural environment, it could be.
Yeah,
size, it could be.
You could guess what that means.
I could say location is almost too broad. Yeah, I could buy that.
Okay.
To take that out.
I actually like location. And it could mean any of those things, but we're not being specific here. We're asking, a lot of people live here because it's minutes from the New Hampshire border, but it's in Maine. It's less than an hour from, well, a little over an hour now with traffic to
But
Boston.
if that's,
A lot of people live here because of the location.
if that's what they
So
value and we wanna know that, then we should ask about that,
Right.
as opposed to a word, using a
Yeah, 'cause
word that doesn't
location,
tell
well, the other
us.
thing is that, I guess I use, if I'm asked about that, it's not, I moved here because of location initially, 25, 30 years ago, whatever it was. But that's not my favorite thing about Lebanon.
Well, we're not asking only you.
No, but my point is that may be what got you to finally move here. But that would have worked if I was, looking here, but not necessarily.
And for you,
Local economy, it might be that, it might be, distance to recreation, again, if they wanna go to the theater in Boston, is that close enough? I don't know.
Right.
But those are the issues, that's not, location covers all of that. And I think that's why what he's saying is that if somebody checks off location, we don't really know what they mean, and so that doesn't give us any data to use. We're trying to use this to gauge attitudes about things to steer us. But if they say location, that's not steering us to anywhere.
When I think about location, I think it is what it is.
So I
it's
think
here.
I think that location needs to be defined. Now, it could be local economy, it could be local
Okay, so we have
it could be local attractions. I mean, maybe it could be other things, but I think location is too broad.
No, I'm not gonna argue with everybody, so.
Yeah.
I think it is too broad.
I think so too.
Because ultimately the survey is to get us data that we can use
Right.
for the plan
So,
and
So what would, just to pick one off the top, what would recreation be different? Are they talking about ATVs? Are they talking about snow?
well,
Are
no,
they
but
talking
that's
about
where
skiing?
then
Are they talking about
if you
water?
have
Are they talking,
no,
you know?
if you have a bunch of people that say recreation,
Mm-hmm.
now you go to your preference, so recreation is a big item. Now you can go to your preference survey and narrow recreation
that with
down.
location as well?
But I don't know what to narrow. Local economy, am I narrowing that down? Am I narrowing down?
Is a choice.
No, but my point is that somebody
recreation seems a little more specific to me than
location is true.
location.
Right.
I mean,
it wasn't my answer, so I'm defending somebody else's answer, but I thought it was a good one, so.
That was an answer from a generic
Yeah, it
survey
wasn't
that
my
was
answer, but I'm just
But I think
defending
that is
somebody
a little
else's
bit
answer.
broad.
'Cause I
It
thought
was mine, it said location.
Well, there you go.
Yeah, but
So I don't
there's
really
nothing
care
we can
how
really
that's
do
done.
about the location of our town. It is what it is.
Right.
You chose it for a reason.
Yeah.
And I think that recreation, maybe recreational opportunities, that there's places you can go hiking, you can play
Skydive. I mean,
baseball,
that
you
is
can
something that we
skydive,
could
depending
affect.
on your interests.
The town could work on creating more recreation opportunities, as you say, but we can't do anything about the location of town. It is what it is. It is where it is, at least in terms of physical location.
It's kind of been here a
Again,
long
I'm just
time.
seeing location as something completely.
So do we have
different.
recreation on there?
Yeah, we do.
We do. We have
Okay.
location, recreation, schools, natural environment, size, quality of life, local economy, other.
So you're keeping location then? Is what
No,
you're saying?
I haven't. No, nobody
Scratch
said it.
location?
Just hasn't scratched it yet,
No.
cause I'm still running my mouth.
I haven't scratched it yet. We're all just still talking about it.
Well, we can't change where we are, right?
Yeah,
I-
I'm not seeing
I think
it
it's
as
too ambiguous.
physical location, as far as like, oh yes, I live in Lebanon. I'm seeing it as distance to the border.
Let me flip this
Distance
coin
to
for
Boston, distance to Manchester, distance to, we
But
are like,
why distance to those? What
because we're
So-
central
so
to the
you're-
major metropolitan areas,
Deborah.
I guess is what I'm
So
saying.
are you saying
Airports.
central location?
Central, I
So if you
mean,
put
I
the word
see us
central
as
location.
central, we're in the middle of, if you look at where we are, there's Portsmouth, there's Portland, there's Manchester, there's Concord, we are central to all of that.
Okay, so what if we
area.
say-
Yeah, but what would make you pick Lebanon over Acton if
What if we
location
say,
was
what if we
important?
say geographic location?
Geographic location, that would work better.
What if
Or if we
everybody
said-
responds to the survey as geographic location as the answer? We got nowhere with that.
How
so
about-
then when we go to flip this into our preference survey,
Well, I agree, it doesn't provide us any data to use.
What if you
Our
said,
geographic, we can't change that.
Yeah.
The comprehensive plan is not gonna address our geographic.
location,
If we
you're right.
need
Yeah.
And so if we're asking for data, let's not give them, even if that's their number one choice, that doesn't help
That
us
doesn't help us do
move
anything.
forward.
Good, scratch,
Does
that was the
does
answer.
that- okay.
That's kind of where they were going, and that,
Yeah.
and I was seeing.
I wasn't seeing that, I kept hearing like, well, this is where we are, and I was like, yeah, but we could be somewhere else, or we could get in our car and move, you know, so I guess, yeah, that makes sense, is that it doesn't provide us with anything we can plan for the future to change.
right,
Sorry, and thank you.
No, it's okay.
that was good discussion.
That's what we're here for.
Can I just make one suggestion that we try to not interrupt each other, because I'm having a hard time following when everybody's
Mm-hmm.
talking at once, because I try to pay attention to the one person talking and then I'm hearing side conversations, and
Why are you looking at me?
I have ADHD because you're sitting across from me. I have ADHD, so I want to pay attention to what you're saying, what you're saying, what you're saying, but then I'm still trying to focus on what they're saying. And that's how I got rural written down when it wasn't even part of that.
Who said rural?
I don't even know.
That may be a choice why someone picked it over living in Rochester.
Alright, so are we deciding
So-
on those?
So now we have recreation, schools, natural environment, size, quality of life, local economy, other.
I'm gonna advocate maybe for rural, if you said rural character. You know, keep the open spaces and, you know,
Quality of life, would that fall under quality of life?
it depends what
It
people
does, the open
prefer.
spaces is more on land use, so that, we'll get those attitudes more, I think, on
Okay,
when
alright.
when we ask
I
about
can-
land use stuff.
I can live without that.
How about lack of law enforcement? Some people come here for that, you know.
Lack of what?
Law enforcement.
Oh,
Yeah.
I mean, some people come here for that, for real.
We'll get there.
Should we
But
have,
if we get people that say more people want police protection than don't want it, then that's something we need to put in our plan.
Yeah, we will get there.
I'd
That's part of,
I'd stick with that list, cause I don't think,
I like
I don't think tonight is the, I don't think we're going to print tonight.
No.
So
getting
I
ideas.
think
Mull over it, yeah.
and there's an
get
other,
ideas, and so I think having everybody sleep on it, we may come up with maybe another one that gets added or whatever, but I think that's good to go to the next one.
Other
That's
is
my thought.
all encompassing too.
Yeah,
So somebody can select
That's
that.
your-
Right,
that's
they
your-
can select that.
Rebecca.
That's your out to let anybody put down whatever.
Okay. So how does everybody feel so far about those choices? Recreation, schools, natural environment, size, quality of life, local economy, and other.
I like
Everybody think that's
I
good?
think that's good.
Sounds good to me.
Okay, so we'll leave that on there for now, and then I'll rewrite these, and we'll go over them again at our next meeting and tweak them as need be. All right, what do you not like / change? So what do you not like?
So I
Or,
thought this was good, is what's one thing you would change about Lebanon?
gotcha.
Keep it positive.
Exactly.
Are we going
Or
to
you
give them
So
options?
this is options again, I think.
It could be the same options even.
Some of them are, this one actually has planning and land uses. So this is where
Okay,
that goes in if they, you know,
The Z word?
but this one has recreation. It has cost of living, which is a little bit different, kind of like quality of life is the
Taxes,
corollary
yeah.
of quality of life.
Mhm.
Natural environment, I don't know why it's there.
What
Local
we would-
economy.
What we would change, what
Yeah.
the
That's
person
one
would
thing you would
change,
change, natural
I
environment.
don't wanna change that.
No.
and how
The
could.
local economy is there. What's the one thing you would change? I don't know. I mean, that's, if they say local economy, I'm assuming they want to improve it. So that means they want.
Cost of living.
Yeah, but cost of living wouldn't be local economy.
think
No, I
it-
guess not.
Yeah.
Would instead
Cost of
of
living, I
local-
think that was where your taxes would come in.
Right,
Right.
and the
And
cost of
schools and cost
housing,
of schools.
Instead of saying local economy, could we make it, I don't know, something about like the amount of commercial tax based on, I mean, I wouldn't know how to write it, but the amount of commercial
building, the amount of commercial available.
Well, that's
Is there
land.
something there?
That's
That's
planning and
land
land, that's planning and land uses,
Okay.
that's really covered in there.
Okay, so that's good.
Can I ask everyone if we can set aside some time toward the end to talk about what we're gonna do about these inventories so that we don't go another meeting without getting started on that? So like 15 minutes before the end of the meeting, we'll say, okay, we've done what we can do on this survey. What are we gonna do on inventories? Yes, no?
Well, I think that's,
I mean, we could, we
I-
might,
I
I just,
tend to agree with you because that may lead into our homework for next meeting.
right.
So I would tend to agree with what you're saying, and we need to leave time so that we know what we're doing for the next meeting.
Alright, so let's get through these questions then, and then we can work on inventories. We don't have many questions left. Age group and gender, that's not a question that's needed, that's just added. Commercial zone. I think. How do you wanna word that question?
Is that land use one, the one I gave you? I think it was not.
Did I give it back?
No, you stole it.
I think originally, way back in the past 2 or 3, do you want to see a designated commercial area, or do you wanna see commercial area
This was-
increase?
Or do you?
I mean, we can
think
do that, but this was
should be
basically
limited?
the following list of objectives which guide future growth and development in Lebanon. So you're asking for, and then remember that they're doing the M for most important and L for least important. And then you just have a list that they're trying to say what's most important, so maintaining a low level of environmental pollution. Having access to open space, parks, wooded land near residential areas,
I like that whole question.
so that, we may wanna tweak some of this stuff, but
Yeah.
you can write on that, I mean, I'm not just, you can have that, I mean, I just.
I don't need to write on it, cause I can just take a picture of it.
And that's where we can put in commercial, do we want a commercial zone, or a commercial corridor?
Limited to a certain area.
Limited commercial corridors or something, I mean, maybe you make it plural or whatever, I mean, I don't, I'm just saying, but that one question kind of talks about, do you wanna have a historical district?
Mhm.
That's been brought up.
Yeah, I'm surprised that didn't hit up tonight.
Right. Cause that's really that's really the 3 districts that really have ever been talked about, is a commercial, a historic, and a residential.
Yeah.
I mean, that's.
Yeah, so the first one is maintaining a low level of environmental pollution. Then it's having access to open spaces, parks, greenbelts, wooded land near residential areas, expanding the variety and availability of retail goods and services, improving personal security and public safety, attracting businesses, maintaining and enhancing the visual appearance of buildings and landscaping, increasing education opportunities for all age groups, protecting neighborhoods from encroachment by non-residential uses, building and maintaining livable neighborhoods,
Actually, that's
encouraging a sustainable region.
Well, instead of the encroachment, what you might do is something about a commercial zone.
In a historical,
commercial and residential separate.
right.
Right.
Keep it, that's a good way to put it.
Well,
Instead of
I
encroachment,
think
that's
if
what
you
really what
develop
encroachment's
a
talking about,
commercial
is commercial.
zone and you develop a historical district, just keep it simple, that's all with the town of Lebanon.
Protecting neighborhoods from non-residential land uses.
See, that
That's
would
a-
be,
That's a good one.
Instead of,
just, I know a lot of people in Lebanon will say, you can't tell me what you can do on my land.
Oh, yeah, that's a huge one, yeah.
And so that's why I'm like, if we develop a commercial zone and a
You could say-
historical district,
Um,
the rest of it's,
we're
Keeping-
residential.
I mean, a lot of those same people
You
would
could
say,
say-
I don't want somebody to build
you
a
could say here,
manufacturing facility next to me.
Right, but they want the option to do it on their own land. If you listen to the
yeah.
same person will
Yeah.
flip that way within 21 seconds of one
So that's what I'm
statement.
saying, if you develop a commercial zone and you have historical districts, you're not limiting the rest of it to anything, to just residential.
So what about the person, like my husband, who has a woodworking shop on his property?
That's
or
cottage industry, completely different question.
Or a person who has a garage and does maintenance.
Well, if you're not
Cottage industry.
zoning it residential, you can probably, that's why we have appeals boards.
So,
Because
and there's also a lot of grandfather stuff that
Yeah.
the law, so.
Yeah.
No,
My thought-
I
my
wasn't
thought
worried.
here is-
I wasn't worried about. I meant
No.
somebody coming forward
Well,
with something.
so my thought here is on this, doing this question is, and I thought of phrasing it, restricting commercial properties to certain corridors. So
Yeah.
that's just, it's wide enough, because again, we can talk about how many corridors, whether it's just 202, or it's 202 in Depot, or 202 in whatever, I mean, that's.
Sure.
Well, it could always be
that-
expanded too. This is just
So
the original plan.
restricting,
That's the word that's gonna
commercial-
get you.
restricting commercial activity to specific corridors.
No,
I
'cause
think there has to be a better way, and I'm gonna tell you why, because I'm with Becky. There are so many people in this town that operate small businesses from their home. So you have to be able to tell them in some way, and maybe not with this question, that there will be protection for cottage industry, what they call cottage, small businesses out of a room in your home.
We're not talking about
I
businesses
know,
that
but
are
when-
now though, so
I
that's why
understand.
we're
I
having
know,
to
I'm
say.
not talking only about businesses now either. I'm talking about people, can my kid open a
Well, how
business?
about
What kind
large
of
scale?
businesses, what kind
how
of
about you
businesses
use
are
the-
those?
Use the
Hair
term,
cutting,
No, but
craft,
how about you use
Childcare.
the term,
childcare.
use the
How
term.
about, would
large
you be
scale.
opposed
Oil
to
class.
Hold on,
a commercial
we're all talking
zone?
over each other.
Well, you asked me a question, I'm trying to answer.
No, but everybody else is talking.
Childcare, like they do rug braiding classes, or they might have painting
Okay, I
classes,
think
or
we
they
got
might
the
have
idea.
bakeries.
I think we got the idea.
Well, he asked me a question,
I
do you
know,
mind
but
if I answer it?
We have the idea.
Oh, I gave you 4 answers, everybody's got the idea, sorry.
No, relax. So, is there a way to word
There is.
The restrictions.
Identifying
It's
Right.
commercial
commercial
corridors.
growth. So that was a question that I
restricting
came up with.
commercial growth?
How do we? It said the question I wrote was, I believe commercial growth should be limited to a specific area. It was kind of a yes or no, because it's not
But then you
now.
can put that,
It's future growth.
but you can still put that here, restrict future commercial growth to specific corridors.
To
Or
specific
how-
area.
How about to get to
Where areas?
Deborah's concern, which is a good one, how about you say restrict large scale commercial growth?
Well, that's what I was asking, so my point was, is how do you define what
that-
commercial is that's not cottage industry versus,
Okay, so I would
So-
suggest large scale as a term.
What do you call
Okay,
large
and I wonder
scale?
if we could do
Or
whatever we
maybe a
decide to
better
call
term.
that large scale,
Well, that's
while
my point is
protecting
that-
cottage, just put the little tag on
when
it
you
while
say
protecting
cottage
cottage
industry, okay, so
Correct.
let me ask a question, you say cottage industry,
Right,
Cottage
cottage industry defined by law, by the way.
by main law?
I believe it's right in, let me
So-
look before I answer.
But cottage industry could be somebody's garage, they have a 2-car garage and they're fixing cars there. How is that any different than a little warehouse for medical marijuana?
Let me just make sure it was me that I was.
Why is
reading
that
it.
not considered, I mean, there's not a lot of traffic, it's not retail, but that's commercial.
When you hit retail, that, I'm trying to find out what Harvey means by large scale commercial. I mean, you don't want our business in your backyard.
Well, I would
But
say
if
like
it's
state
not
line is,
large scale,
state line
Say it
strikes
used to
me
be
as kind of
anyways.
large scale.
that is, yeah.
I'm just
Yeah,
searching
I'm
for
trying
something.
Trains is a perfect example, there's another, that's a large scale business,
Right,
trains.
it is.
And
I would call yours large
the walk-in retail.
I mean,
There may be a better term.
that's what I'm saying,
Well,
I'm trying to
just
define, but I mean,
Yeah.
I'm not sure you wanna have a garage with air hammers and air guns right next door. I'm not sure.
It's true, no matter what scale it is.
I mean,
certainly.
whether it's so I mean, I mean, so it's growth, so that means future, not present day.
You're going to have pre-existing,
Oh, yeah.
non-conforming
Oh, yeah.
issues as we go down the road.
Always, yeah, 'cause it's all, we've had nothing, so it's everywhere.
Yeah,
Yep.
I mean, like Dana would always be there now, but can you pass that on to your kids?
But can somebody else come in and set up a business like his in the future and make a living working for themselves and being an artist?
Yeah.
Well, I mean, home businesses, I think, are different.
Because
They
even in
don't have
strictly residential areas in other cities and
Well, it's the
towns,
business out of your own
there are
home.
specific
So woodworking would be
businesses
out of
that
your
you can
home.
have.
Daycare a lot of times is out of your home.
still under the residential umbrella.
Those are,
So usually there's different residential
Well,
zones for different types
I
of
have-
things.
We're not trying to nail down the dots and cross the Ts on this. This is a survey, so I'm thinking,
Simpler the better.
you know, something that I'd suggest large scale works.
I think large
As a
scale
term.
probably gets the point across, we can get,
It's
in
not
the
perfect.
preferences, we can narrow down what do we really mean by large scale. But I think that's probably a safer bet, because that's getting the point across, and we're
Yeah,
not
I
talking
think
about
so
mom and
too.
pop businesses.
Right, so we won't be scaring people.
Large scale retail with that?
A large scale anything.
Okay,
Manufacturing,
This in
retail,
Maine,
you name it.
I'm sorry. I'll wait my turn.
Go ahead.
So this in Maine defines cottage industry as typically a small business that can be contained to a single or double room in a home. So basically, they talk about here the new cottage industry of marijuana, caretaking, because you can only have a
But
limited
that's
amount.
not a garage. A garage doesn't fit that.
No,
One or two.
it doesn't. One or two, typically
One
the
or two
size
rooms
that can fit
in a
into,
house.
it says
Not a
can
garage
fit
outside your
into.
house.
It doesn't say whether that room is in your garage, your breezeway, your bathroom, it doesn't tell you. It just says can fit into typically one or two rooms in your home.
Right, so
Right.
in-home small businesses.
In-home
That's
small
what we're getting at.
So I think
That's
large scale is good enough for now, I think that gets the point across.
I had some reservations about some of the wording on that list, because I think to say that we want a minimal amount of pollution, that's kind of a negative, instead of saying fresh air and clean water is a priority. You know, just a little qualitative difference in the wording.
Yeah, we can go through that more in detail, but let's get through our list though, because
Okay.
we get 20 minutes left and we still do want to touch base on inventory. So I'll just try to get something kind of written up, and then we'll just touch base with it again next week
Okay.
about changing out some of the words and the terminology. I can write on this.
Yeah.
I changed my mind.
Yeah.
I changed my mind. I need to write on it because I want.
You can have it, yeah.
Okay, wait. Where's it?
If you lose it, don't ask me where I got her from, because I was pulling stuff from everywhere.
Okay, I took a picture of it too. Okay, so we've got commercial zone, town growth. So we have two more questions that we need to talk about before we touch base on inventories.
Okay, what is the question?
Town growth and biggest challenge.
Town growth, isn't that covered by
You think so?
that?
It's covered by
Yeah.
this?
Yeah.
I
Okay.
think so too.
Now, biggest challenge.
That's probably, that kind of goes along with what you don't like, but I guess biggest challenge is a little different though.
Yeah. I think that's a good question. So we're looking for answers and I'm gonna go in.
So is biggest challenge, well, I think that's almost an open-ended one too.
Well, couldn't we use the same list though? Because for some people,
Recreation
Because
is
I
not
don't think
biggest challenge.
recreation
I think
is a challenge.
biggest challenge is, they might say, I don't know, communications, or they may
Right.
say,
Communications is a good one.
law enforcement, or they may say, it's,
okay,
I'm just saying, I'm just throwing things out, I don't know,
okay.
I think the
Those both
challenge
sound
is,
Those both sound good.
I think so too.
right,
Communications,
I mean,
law enforcement,
so, but I'm just saying, people, let people, I think,
law enforcement.
Communications and law enforcement.
we're gonna do a list though.
Yeah, well,
There we
we've
go,
got a list on the others, so.
Yeah, we're just gonna throw lists together and then
Okay.
I'll type it up, I'll bring it again,
Alright,
we'll
and then
rehash it.
we'll just make sure we put an other on that so they can write in
There'll
whatever.
be an other on everything.
So what other challenges
So
do we have?
do we wanna say law enforcement or do we wanna say lack of
There was a good
services?
question in here, Deborah,
Okay.
pertaining
Good,
to
good.
that. That would be part, I'm calling this the biggest question. I'm
Okay,
referring to this as the biggest question. On the
Okay.
biggest question, it said improving personal security and public safety.
yeah, that's the one, yeah, I like that,
But that's on that's on the most important or least important,
Yeah,
right?
but we could use it on that one for a challenge.
Yeah, but I'm just using small, short, not longer. Just, whether it be law enforcement or crime
So
rate.
how about
Or
crime
you
rate
could do crime rate. I mean,
or personal safety?
so you could do crime rate, you could do drugs, something to do with drugs. I mean, that's a challenge. That's out there for everybody.
Yeah, that's kind of,
But I mean, it's just, at least you know what their priorities are, what they think is the most important.
Probably ought to put conservation, natural resource conservation.
Climate change, something along those lines, yeah. I mean, it's not a lot we can do at the local level,
like-
but
Senior
right,
services.
that's what I'm saying. They
we're gonna
don't
be
have to
carbon
use
neutral.
Yeah.
What'd you say, Corinna?
Senior services.
Senior center.
Yep, yeah, that's a good one, yep. Community services,
And that'd be
Well,
on-
why don't you do community services and not just senior?
I'm gonna write everything down and we're gonna hash it out again,
Okay.
just because we're running out of time.
Traffic control?
Infrastructure. What's that for roads?
Roads.
roads.
Yeah.
Yeah, might as well call it
Roads.
that.
Everybody- what it
everybody's
is.
gonna pick that.
Should we even, we already know that that's one of our wicked issues, do we even need to have that on the survey, we can get everything back with road, nothing else?
Wow.
Well, if that's high on people's
Well,
list.
there's a lot that you
I
could
would
do in
put it
that
on there.
department. I just spent a week driving over some roads that are even worse than Lebanon, so. Way up north.
Anything else?
Good for now.
That's good for now, and then I'll type it up, we'll rehash it again. In 2 weeks. Alright. Okay, Harvey. You're up.
Okay, I suggest that we want to get started on doing the inventories listed in the manual. And one thing to do is each person volunteer to take one.
So I think we should be.
So everybody, if you got a
Chip's
I
list.
did a flow chart. It's
Flow
small
chart.
because I wanted it to be all on one page. So
Yeah,
it's
we
kind of
can do
small,
that.
but if you go up, you'll see it has all those sections in it. And all the sections are, the aspects are description of existing conditions, recent trends, projections into the future, analysis and issues. So it just flows down for every one of those boxes. You're supposed to do this.
Well, my suggestion would be is that we just go around the table and whoever, like,
Add
Sarah,
names.
you pick one. You take topography. Put your name there, Sarah.
So, wait a minute, I
Or I'll do
don't really know what.
So-
I think the problem is that not everybody
know what
knows
to
what
do.
we're supposed to be doing with
Well, first
this
of all,
inventory.
what you do with it is you commit to read about it in the manual. The manual has
Oh, I
has
could do that.
a chapter for each inventory. So you say, I am going to read that inventory. The second thing I would suggest you do is you compare what is available in the Lebanon comprehensive plan and see if there are parts that need to be updated or parts that are not mentioned in the Lebanon plan that are mentioned in the manual. The manual tends to be more complete than the Lebanon plan. So you commit to read what the manual says, and you see how the Lebanon manual measures up.
and Becky go, if you look at one of them, so let's just say
This thing.
hazard mitigation. I don't even know what that means. You can look and see what it means in the book, but that's one of the categories, is hazard mitigation.
So you just look
So
at
then
it.
we're supposed to do description of existing conditions. So we're supposed to know what the existing conditions are, what the recent trends are, and that's just going down this.
Where do we find that information though? I mean, if
Well,
for
you have
any,
a copy of the manual?
The manual will
Do you have
help.
a copy of this?
yes, it's-
Okay, then you look in here in the table of contents, and it will
There's
list,
a whole chapter for that.
okay, so the inventory is where we're at right
Right
now.
right,
Okay.
So I guess, and that's why I did this, so it helps. And so we have to do all of these. And this surveys really don't come into play until here. But if we wait until we get here
Right.
and then do surveys, now we're waiting around for survey results.
Okay.
So that's why we do the surveys at the same time while we're doing all this stuff.
So that
So that when we finally get down to here,
Okay.
we have these results to help do what's there.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
So the first step is just reading about it and figuring out what
And we have to, and then
it
you have
was and
so you
whatever
have to
it was.
you gotta pick an area that maybe you like, that you have an
Okay.
interest in.
That would be land use patterns for Sarah.
okay, so you write down,
Well, jump
I'll
right in
take-
there, Sarah.
Does anyone else have a preference, cause I'll just take whatever's left over.
I'd like to do agricultural and forestry.
Really, Deborah?
Do you mind?
I really thought that you would have chosen population and demographics, but that's
I kind of kept hearing Becky's
Do you wanna-
questions being in that area, so I like both.
What do you
but
want to do?
I just know that
Agriculture?
Judy wanted to maybe do ag, cause
Oh.
she's in the ag business.
Oh, no,
Do you have a preference for
I
something? I'm just saying, cause she's in that business.
yeah.
Yeah, I don't mind.
Not, just
Not,
be
not,
on
not,
roll
not
because
really,
we
not
do
really
have-
forestry.
Sometimes you want
When
to
did
get
you
away
take,
from
Sarah?
her business. Yeah,
Land
that's
use
fine.
patterns?
I can
I'll
tap
just
into
read.
some
Okay, I'll take
customers'
population and
names perhaps. All right, I'll do that.
Which one?
She's gonna do
Forestry.
agriculture.
Sorry.
Becky's gonna take population,
and
Judy's gonna
demographics.
take,
I didn't mean to take that away from you if you really wanted that.
And
You really want
that information would
what did you
be,
do?
I'll do the agricultural forestry
Judy,
and
okay.
marine.
You really don't want me to do
Recreation.
hazard mitigation.
Recreation
It's a lot
and
to do.
What about,
open
what
spaces?
about historic and archaeological resources?
Actually, hazard mitigation is kinda like the hazard portion of each of the other inventories
Is
put
it?
together, so, yeah, so I wouldn't have anything to treat
That was
that
the
way.
only one I could read, so.
Deborah, what about
What about historic and archaeological resources?
I could do that.
or
Okay.
recreation and open spaces or public facilities and services?
I
She's
don't
already,
wanna do public facilities and services.
she's committed,
Which one?
Yeah,
historic,
historical, yeah,
she doesn't know what she's getting into, but she's committed.
yeah.
All right,
Okay.
Chip.
It was my first or my second choice, so.
I'm a finance guy, so I can do fiscal capacity,
Good, where the heck is that?
it's all the way to the right.
last one.
I could also do local and regional economy if you wanted me to do that.
That'd be great.
Which one?
Local and regional economy.
I will take housing and land use patterns.
And I may even ask Judy for help on the local and regional economy, since they're a.
I'll take
locally.
topography, geology and all that stuff.
Yeah, I can help you
What
with
are
that.
you doing, Corinna?
You could do transportation and that would let you talk about your road.
We have a master list of, you gotta. you
Well,
put the names down.
there originally was in this comprehensive plan that they did subcommittees. That they broke down into 4 subcommittees.
We are,
right, we're
we
not
are the
doing that.
subcommittees.
Huh?
We're not doing that, we're doing our thing. Don't
Right.
stop
Well, I'm
looking
saying
at
you
that
could
one.
put some of these.
No, stop looking at that, just.
We're doing, yeah,
Can
we're
we-
a different group.
Which
Can we
inventory
volunteer
would
someone
you-
who's not here if
Oh,
we
of
call
course,
and tell them?
Because we have 3 people who are not here.
Right.
Whatever's
let's
left,
see.
they
That's
get.
their
And
problem.
I have 3
Yeah,
people
because-
not here, and I have
What do you have
5
left?
items left.
Okay,
have
put
left?
put Betty on housing and I'll call and break
Yeah,
the
what do you have?
news to her.
What's-
I'm
What
on
do you have left?
I'm on
She's
housing.
doing
You're on
and
housing.
land use. Hold on,
Wait a
Corinna.
minute.
I have
Oh, you're
to
doing
have
both,
Corinna
okay.
choose one, and what I have left is habitat and other significant natural resources,
Oh, that's what I thought.
hazard mitigation,
Scratch that one if
You
you
wanna
want.
do local and regional economy, Karina?
hazard
We
mitigation.
gotta go find out what else she's got available.
I'll swap you, I'll do the habitat and natural resources if you wanna do local economy.
You want to hear what else is left?
Yeah, what else is
Okay.
on?
Habitat and other significant natural resources, transportation, recreation and open space,
Where,
public facility and services.
Who's doing hazard mitigation?
That's included
part
in
of
the
everything.
others.
That one's out.
That one's,
And Chip and I currently have 2 that we could give up. Each of us could give one up if there's something that
What
you
ones are
don't
you doing? Jen?
like. He's doing
Fiscal capacity and local and regional economy, but actually I love habitat and significant natural resources, so.
well, you can work on that with other people too.
Right, but all I'm just saying is that if you wanted to do local and
Well,
regional economy.
We won't have
Well, I think actually the habitat and the natural resources would go well with recreation and open
it
spaces.
would help if you then looked in the
the
Lebanon
old
and
one,
see
yeah.
how, what applies and what's
Okay.
missing.
Habitat and other significant natural resources and recreation
all
and
Do
open
them
spaces.
at once.
You want both of those?
I think you kind of go together.
No, they don't,
No?
totally different.
But remember, I have 3 people who are not here.
Right.
I have John Paul, Betty, and Norm.
Well, I'll do the recreation open spaces.
Very good.
I'm gonna give up local and regional economy, cause I actually think one of the other guys will pick that up.
Who should we give that to?
But I wanna do the habitat and
You want to do that?
I wanna do that instead. Yeah.
Why did you think I could do something with local and regional
Just, well,
economy?
because you're part of the local economy.
You actually have agriculture, forestry, marine resources.
Yeah, that's a big one already.
Yeah,
Yeah,
so that's fine. But I was just saying that because bachelor sales is part of the local economy.
Well, it's true, but I didn't know what.
Call Betty and see if she'll do public facilities.
We're just gonna assign
Judy?
them.
Okay,
Because they're not here, we just gotta assign them.
That's,
she's into
that's actually
services, so.
2 inventories combined. The marine one is a separate inventory. We probably don't have much in the marine, but just so when you're looking for that inventory, you're gonna find that it's in 2 places.
It's mostly agricultural.
So what do you give
and
them?
forestry?
Right.
What I have left, I have John Paul, Betty, and Norm. And the options for who do you want to give local and regional economy?
That would Norm or John Paul be better for that, or Betty?
What are the other ones that are available?
Transportation, public facilities, and services.
transportation is a small
I think
I mean, that's not.
Betty would do public facilities.
I thought so
So
too.
Yeah, I think she'd be interested in that.
I'll call her.
Transportation can be picked up almost by anybody, because that should be free. We don't, it's non-existent.
We don't have
Yeah.
public
Current
transportation.
inventory?
Well, it's
Nothing.
it's actually gonna go over your roads and the shape of your roads, the
okay.
quality of your roads and things.
So
To
who should we
to some
put that
extent,
to?
We
I
should
think
all
John
have,
Paul.
all at some point, read all of it, but so whoever,
And what's
So it takes
left
the
for
lead.
Nora? I just
I
don't
have
know.
transportation or local and regional economy.
Well, the economy
Just
isn't
pick
very
one, give one
big.
each guy.
Norm,
Basically.
Who's doing,
transportation, John Paul, local and
Economy.
regional economy. And we're obviously all gonna be here to help each other if it gets done.
who's doing
Right.
local and regional?
John Paul.
He has both of them.
He has
No.
He
one.
has
Norm
local and
has-
regional, Norm has
Transportation.
transportation.
Okay, all right.
Phew,
That leaves, who has
They wanna swap out, they can swap.
Right.
right.
I'm sorry?
recreation and open spaces?
Corinna.
Oh, okay.
This manual has great questions to answer. They're hard to answer.
You got the list of everybody there.
Well, pretty much. I can't even read those little things.
Mine, yeah.
No, my magnifying glass.
Hazard mitigation.
Hazard mitigation.
that kind of-
This
I
one
gotta-
was kind
I
of
gotta move
encompassed
that.
by all
That
of them,
kinda
so
goes down
nobody
there.
took that one.
So I'm gonna try to,
What's this
I can adjust this. So where's the
Where's
the name?
Yeah.
So let's start left, let's do left to right real quick on the flow
Oh.
chart.
Okay,
Okay.
good, thank you.
So topography is Harvey.
Yep.
The next one is me, Chip. The next one is nobody, cause that's kind of all encompassing. The next one, historic, is Deborah. Ag is Judy. The next one, which is just to the right of center line, is John Paul. Population and demographics is Rebecca. Land use is Sarah, with an H. Norm is housing is Sarah as well. Transportation is Norm. Recreation open spaces is Karina. Betty is public facilities. And the last one is me, Chip.
What is the last
that
one?
fiscal capacity? Does that work for you? Judy?
Yeah.
Judy,
So-
you okay?
I'll call Betty. I was calling Norm.
You good?
Whoops, I'm
Are
sorry.
you good?
Yeah.
No, you look like you were, it was
I'm
something
gonna, we're
bad.
not gonna call anybody, I'm gonna send out an email
drifting,
to
I guess.
everybody,
Okay.
okay? It's
Okay.
gonna be an email to everybody as a
Okay.
reminder and also
Instructions.
these instructions that Harvey has supplied.
So what are the instructions for next meeting? Where are we at?
Next meeting is, I'm gonna type up those questions and we're gonna hash those out. We should try to keep that to only like an hour so that we can work on our inventories, because work on your inventories, at least start them so we can have some sort of conversation about it. And that was read the manual in the guide for ideas on what you should be looking for, and then find that chapter in the current Lebanon comprehensive plan that we have, this red, and see what we're missing, see what we need.
Right, so my thought was everybody should be able to present a status of your box, which means kind of like a to-do list, where you're at, what do you have already, what do you need to get done. Doesn't mean you have to do it, but you ought to be able to know in your mind
Yeah.
what you need to do, and
And
that way we know if there's one of these sections that's like way behind, that they may need help, or they may need an outside resource, we need to talk to somebody else to get help with that or whatever. But to try to identify, I'd say what you need to get done in your section. Does that make sense?
absolutely. And just to forewarn people, the Lebanon one isn't in nice inventories that match the community planning inventory, so you may have to kind of dig around to find the chip.
And our next meeting will be 2 weeks from today, on Wednesday, August 9th at 6 p.m. Is 6 p.m. a good time for everybody?
Karina comes late because she's just getting out of work, but, right? Isn't that why you come in at 6:30? Yeah.
I'll try to get earlier.
Do you wanna move the
Yeah.
meeting to 6:30 instead of 6?
6 is fine because I want to be over by 8.
Yeah, and I think usually by the time we get around to her, it's 6:30 anyway. Like if we all started at this end, and, you know what I'm saying? Like
Yeah.
if we were all doing these inventories, and by the time we got to her, she'd be here. You know, but I don't want to have to commit until 8:30 if I've already committed till 8. And I mean,
Does this flow chart help people? Cause I can try to expand it, make it more user friendly. I know it's
Yeah,
kind of
that's
small.
good.
I think
I know it's kind of small, but I'm just saying, I can try to.
it works for me.
That's good.
It works good.
Real quick, I also, just so you know, cause I handed out some things that I ran across that I thought were actually pretty good reading. 10 steps in preparing a comprehensive plan. This is done by the planning commission at work. I thought this was actually pretty good reading. And then here's another one here was avoiding the unadoptable plan or ordinance, which is what we've had. The
right?
unadoptable, that's why it kind of caught my attention. So it talks about, these are more bigger picture type things of the whole process, but I thought they were good reads, so.
Thank you.
Thank you.
For printing those.
Phew. They actually work.
I look at Harvey's list and it's like we came right back to it. The list that you presented in the beginning, we ended up coming back to it, so full circle
You
and
wanna hold on to those?
Pretty
for the
much
people
what
that
they
are
all-
missing?
agreed that we were
Mhm. You've done this rodeo before, right?
No, I haven't.
Oh, I thought you had.
Your name is in the comprehensive plan book.
I know, I don't remember a thing about it. Just pushed it out of my mind.
Can I have a motion to end this meeting?
So long.
Well,
Motion that we end the meeting.
I'll second it.
Alright, thank you.
I didn't want to motion to end because I motioned to open, so I waited for somebody else to do it.